Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
This is Sean Clark, head football coach of App State Mountaineers, and you're listening to the Fun Belt Podcast.
This is the Fun Belt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts Dusty Thibodeau of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howl Racer, and Shane Metlin of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sun Belt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating.
For the record, Shane Metlin not here tonight. Sick. Out with some sort of cold or malady. But with me today is Dusty Thibodeau, but also he's sick, not feeling well. Just got back from the minor med. Is that right, Tibbs?
Yeah, not COVID, not strep, not flu.
No.
Just the funk.
You know what you got? You got the funk that the Warhawks have. Losers of 2 straight. Maybe by getting better, your healing will make the Warhawks better. What do you think?
If only it worked that way.
I do have some good news. Would you like to hear it?
Did you just save a bunch of money on your car insurance?
No, I did not. I'm paying more than ever. No, it was the opening night of Sunbelt basketball season on Monday night. Well, I think Monday late afternoon things got started with the MAC Challenge, the MAC Sunbelt Showdown. It's the Sunbelt and the schools from the MACtion getting together. The MAC only has 12 schools. Sunbelt has 14, so that left 2 Sunbelt schools out. One of those schools was the Warhawks, and they won their game. It was kind of a tune-up, right? Who did you guys play?
Champion Christian.
Yeah.
Everyone's
okay.
punching bag.
That is a good punching bag tune-up. And then Marshall, I think, won their game. But everybody else was matched up with a MAC opponent that they got to play at home. I'm going to run down these scores really quick. I swear to God, we're going to have an all-basketball show, Tibbs. It's just not going to be tonight, right? It's not going to be tonight.
Not tonight.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform. And it's your number one source for everything football. And it's actually my number one source for betting online. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Do you think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on the game of blackjack or poker or unwind with any one of our 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. The Sun Belt did pretty well in this the showdown at home. And we should. We're welcoming these guys at home. We usually do better at home. I'll run down the scores. The first score was Miami, Ohio, besting Appalachian State. And if you talk to people around the league, Appalachian State just lost a lot of guys. So it's not a surprise to me that they go down 77-63 to Miami, Ohio. Like we said, Marshall beats Davis Elkins 90-57. Coastal Carolina taking out Western Michigan 60-56. Troy, we said they were going to be tough, and they've started out tough. 84-74 over Toledo. James Madison, man, it looks like they were going to put a whoop down on Ohio. Ohio ended up kind of getting it back up to a reasonable score. Still, James Madison cruised 88-78. Georgia Southern pounded Northern Illinois, 80-65. Old Dominion got beat on a buzzer beater. Oh, so painful to Buffalo. I'm told that Old Dominion needs to work on some defense. Georgia State, I think Georgia State's going to be all right. I just have this feeling about Georgia State. They beat Ball State 71-66. You know, of all the teams, Tibbs, in the showdown challenge between the MAC and the Sun Belt, the only team that Vegas saw as an underdog for the Sun Belt were the Cajuns, and they did. They lost 66-70 to Kent State. Texas State 64-44 over Eastern Michigan. South Alabama 4-point loser to Central Michigan. South Alabama was down by a lot in that game. Only scored 23 points in the first half. Scored 47 points in the second half. Brought it to within 4, but couldn't close it out. Southern Miss, pretty easy time against Bowling Green, 77-68. Arkansas State in overtime beats the Zips, 80-75. I was there for that. Arkansas State looks good. Still, Zips, well, they had some zip. And there we are with UL Monroe beating a championship, or just champion Christian, 111-61. I swear to God, just scoring under 11 points in a game is quite the achievement, Tibbs. Tibbs, what do you think about the results of the challenge? Do you have any observations before we move on into football?
The first observation I had, first of all, was the absolute beatdown in North Louisiana, and it wasn't the Warhawks game. Grambling State women over Centenary, where it was like 90-something to 6 at the half, and I think they wound up winning 131-31 or 30 in the overall. That's a whooping.
Yeah, that is a whooping, but I have to call foul. I have to throw the flag. I have to put up the red card. That was not related to the MAC Sunbelt Showdown.
No, but it was another beatdown. Yeah, it's hard to get excited when ULM wasn't really in it.
I get it.
It's good that overall the purpose of that is to give us in the Sun Belt some good mid-major wins. We're upholding our end of the bargain, getting those wins to get the Sun Belt in a position to hopefully one day be a 2-bid league. So mission accomplished, at least in the first round. We'll see later on in the year where it's all the return trips and see what exactly that looks like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we had the Monday games, but before that, we had Sunbelt football. And let me tell you something. Here's what I think about football for the Sunbelt now, Tibbs. It seems to me that questions are being answered. And now we're kind of down to this time where there are certain goals that teams want to achieve at this time. They either want to perhaps win their division. There's a handful of teams that can do that. There are teams that are saying, hey, let's just get to a bowl game so they can get that 6 wins. And then there are some teams that are just playing for dignity. And that's not a small thing. Teams like Georgia State and Troy, 2 teams playing for dignity. But we had a slate of games last week for I guess we'd call that week 10. And let's just go over them real quick. The Cajuns on that Tuesday night, I think we already discussed this, beat Texas State, which had huge ramifications in the West, right? Louisiana's number 1. Texas State's kind of out of it right now. Don't know if they can get back in. All right, so here are some games we didn't discuss, Tibbs. UConn overcoming a plucky Georgia State team, 34-27. Were you able to see any of that?
Yeah, I sat in some bars and watched that while I was in Huntington, West Virginia.
Nice.
As I said, I was cheering for UConn because our betting partners Bet Online made me do it. And I was glad that UConn won the game. But I'll tell you, I think Georgia State is still showing that they have a lot of fight in them.
Yes.
And they are not rolling over dead. I love the fight. I'm very anxious to see what Del McGee can do when he has a full year under his belt in the ATL.
Yes, I think what Del McGee has done in Georgia State is nothing short of remarkable. So many guys kind of pushed out or left after head coach leaves for South Carolina. Del McGee comes in, brings in some pretty good guys. They have a little trouble filling the quarterback position. They don't know who to start. Zach Gibson appears to be their man now. I don't know if he's flashy, but he seems capable enough to get a football down to their main man, Hurst. I like what Georgia State's doing. They're going to lose games all season. I don't know if they're going to win another game, but every game they play in is going to be close. It's going to be hard fought. Old Dominion, man, goes down to Boone, gets beat by Appalachian State. Appalachian State, I'm just going to ask you a point blank. I'm going to put you on the spot, Tibbs. Are the Mountaineers back?
I mean, Joey Aguilar, 4 touchdowns. I don't know. maybe is the best answer I got for you. They might be back, but until they can do it 2 weeks in a row, I just don't believe it.
They've won 2 straight. They've won 2 straight. They won against Georgia State and Old Dominion, but not in spectacular fashion, Tibbs. Kind of in these one-scored ways. I will say this, though, about Old Dominion. Colton Joseph, again, just awesome. 2 TDs, 322 yards. The kid's the freshman of the year. Hey, you said you were in Huntington. You saw this in person. Marshall 28, ULM Warhawks 23. First of all, I was impressed that the Warhawks managed to score more than 21 points. I was pretty much sure that they couldn't do it, but they did. But it looked like at one point the Warhawks had this game. I don't know why I felt that way. It was tied 14-14 at the beginning. After the third quarter, it was 0-0. It just felt like the Warhawks were the better team, and somehow Marshall woke up. What happened to the Warhawks?
I got to rewind it, actually, and give you a food review before I get into the action of the game.
Okay.
Luke Creasy, beat writer, former show guest, was gracious enough to indoctrinate me into the Marshall culture. I got tutored going to the world famous Tudor's Biscuit House.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Home of the NIL deal that Coach Huff so famously promised. I went with the Mary B's, which is a huge, awesome homemade biscuit, a handful of bacon, some cheese, and an egg.
This is why you're sick.
Probably.
All right.
Along with a whole potato patty is the only way to describe it. It was not a hash brown, and the great grandmother's type of sun brewed sweet tea that was absolutely amazing.
Wow.
The biscuit, great. Bacon, great. Cheese, great. Egg, it brought it down so much, Jeremy. And then I learned on Twitter after I posted that I had been tutored that you could ask for scrambled egg. So if you're ever back in Huntington, you got to go scrambled egg on the biscuit.
Okay. Because fried egg to me works just as well, but scrambled egg sounds pretty interesting. All right, that's great. That's terrific. But this isn't Tudor's podcast. This is Funbelt podcast.
Yeah, we can't mention Tudors because they don't sponsor us.
No, they don't. However, yes.
It looked like a true battle.
Yes.
For the longest time. And even when it was knotted up 14-all, I think that ULM had some pretty big miscues. There was a bad snap where the Warhawks should have maybe either tackled the punter for a deep loss for the herd, maybe even potentially gotten a safety out of it. Just really unable to do anything. And the punter for Marshall was able to get a 60-yard punt off, so it really flipped the field.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Yeah.
Then in the fourth quarter, just unable to punch it in with Ahmad Hardy right there on the 7-yard line. Aiden Armenta did a pull on the RPO. If he would have handed off to Aiden, or if he would have handed off to Hardy, he was dancing in the end zone. Instead, he pulled it, tried to go round in, got tackled, had to settle for the field goal. And then Marshall just did something they hadn't done all year long. They actually scored fourth quarter points. And one of those was a quick 80-yard, 2-play drive to give them the final lead of the game. Warhawks did get a final touchdown late in the game once they finally opened up the offense passing the ball. But it was too little too late. Ahmad Hardy, though, over 200 yards rushing. First time since 2016, Warhawks have had a 200-yard rusher.
Yeah, 25 carries for the young man. Also, he's a freshman, right?
He is a true freshman.
Yeah, we talked about Hardy. We talked about Joseph. Two guys that great freshmen here in the Sun Belt that are playing. Yeah, I saw a little bit of that second half. And yeah, I felt like here's what I'm wondering, Tibbs. Have people kind of figured out Bryant Vincent and the Warhawks this year? Or is this just a kind of fluky 2-game loss streak?
I don't know. I mean, there's no secrets to the offense, right? It's not like they're some mysterious reason that they were winning. It's that they had a great running game, the offensive line, but they're so thin right now due to injuries. And I think that that's a big key right there. In addition to that, I don't know what's flipped the script. of the defense that they have not been as aggressive and in your face as they were early on in the season. And so until we maybe see that defense kind of go back to being balls to the wall, for lack of a better term, I don't know what this defense is really doing. I do like them this upcoming week against Texas State and the Viva La Boobcats, even though it's a 11 a.m. kickoff, which hurts just thinking about it. But I think the Warhawks do snap that losing streak this upcoming week.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that later, but we can hear. But you did say something about balls to the wall. Let me tell you something. Troy, the Trojans have played balls to the wall since the second quarter of their last game, or I'm sorry, the second half of their last game, when they almost upended Arkansas State after being down 20 points. They take it to Coastal Carolina, Tibbs, 38-24. You know, Vasco had a pretty good game, 200 yards and a touchdown. But damn, Damian Taylor, 190 yards and a TD. Not quite Hardy-esque, but pretty damn close. What do you think of this Troy team?
Where have they been all year on this?
I don't know.
Is the bigger thing.
Something has clicked.
Devontae Ross, 4 receptions, 32 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, this is what we kind of expected out of Troy this year. Yeah. I don't know if maybe they're just kind of screw it and playing loose and all the pressure's off of them. They know that they're not going to be three-peating in the Sun Belt.
Could be.
Maybe that's what it is. But they definitely have looked a lot better these past 2 weeks than they have all season long.
Yeah, I don't know if we fed them radiation in the visitors' locker room during halftime, but there's something going on with these Troy Trojans that they're just a different team. Speaking of being a different team, Coastal Carolina kind of a different team now. Starts the season 3-0. We're all wondering, well, man, is Coastal Carolina the team to beat in the East? Man, they've just been absolutely miserable. You know, Vasco, you know, I mentioned it wasn't a bad game, but still he's only 18 for 34 for 200 yards. What is going on with that Coastal Carolina team? Do you have any idea? And if you say, no, I have no idea, that's the acceptable answer.
I really don't, but I can tell you this. When Vasco doesn't have in that like 250 range, they don't have a good rushing attack there from Braylon Bennett, who only had 69 yards this past weekend. Nice. What can you really expect? I mean, the offense just isn't clicking. It isn't ticking. Yeah, I mean, the defense is not getting much pressure into the secondary or into the backfield rather. This just isn't the same Coastal Carolina we're used to seeing, and maybe that's why they made some personnel changes already at the midway point of the season.
I feel like this is part of the Coastal Carolina DNA, although it seems to be happening earlier this year. It seems they always start pretty fast. They always have a lot of home games at the beginning of the year. You know, they always seem to have all this energy at the start, and then they start to flag at the end. And it seems like they just started that trend earlier this year. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's being too close to the beach. That saps the will and energy out of the players, but it doesn't look like this is going to be a good year for Coastal Carolina. Last game of the week was Georgia Southern at South Alabama. What a barn burner for Georgia Southern. Scores 20 points, 20-0 in the fourth quarter to come back from behind and beat South Alabama, who I thought was going to win this game. You know, South Alabama seemed to be on the upswing. I know Georgia Southern, they're always tough to beat. But, man, for whatever reason, Mobile is not always the best place for South Alabama. But here we are, Georgia Southern taking a firm grasp of first place in the East.
Yeah, I mean, Gio Lopez went out injured. Bishop Davenport came in late into the game. Fluff with 2 touchdowns. Everything was lining up, though, for the Jaguars to get the win. But as you said, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. The offense there of the Eagles behind J.C. French's 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then Dexter Williams, who actually has already entered the portal after going 3 of 5 for a touchdown. The Georgia Southern was just really able to get it done. 71 yards from Jalen White and a touchdown. I mean, full offensive performance. Never say never, and kept on grinding out there in Mobile to go home with the win.
Yeah, this Dexter Williams situation, I can't tell if it's bizarre or if this is just sort of kind of commonplace now in today's transfer portal happy era of football. I mean, can you leave a team at the beginning or at the middle of the season? Just say, I'm not playing anymore. I'm going to be in the transfer portal. I guess you can.
Maybe at halftime of a game, you have a bad first half, you're out.
Yeah. You see JC French isn't going anywhere, and you're just like, peace. I'm out.
All
right, that was the recap. But you know what we got to do now? And we're going to be efficient about it. We're going to do a little bit of Sunbelt second and short. Are you ready for this, Tibbs?
I am.
Now, you know how Sunbelt second and short works. Usually we have Shane, who's our Pulitzer Prize winning Heisman voting writer. He's not in tonight. He's sick. Everybody, send some positive energy to Shane, even though Tibbs is also sick. He managed to come in. You read into that with what you will. Maybe he's scared of the power of second and short. I don't know. I know Thibodeau isn't. Thibodeau, it's all on you today. Are you ready for week 11 of Sunbelt second and short?
No mercy.
All right, here we go. Tomorrow, Thursday, or maybe let's just say today, because we probably won't post this till tomorrow. Thursday, November 7th, Appalachian State takes on Coastal Carolina. Now, let me tell you, these are two teams that are trending in total opposite directions. Appalachian State, they kind of won 2 in a row. They're finally starting to feel it. They're not really blowing past teams, but they've got a couple wins. Now they go to Conway, meet Coastal Carolina, who's actually in free fall, lost a couple games in a row themselves after starting 0-3. Tibbs, I want your most penetrating analysis on this game that's going to be on ESPN at 7 o'clock. And I think I've got this right. Let me make sure. Let me get out my notes that I will eventually have in front of me. Yes, the Bet Online spread for this, Tibbs, is 1 point for the Chants.
Only because it's at home. But I believe in Sean Clark. I believe in the power of, he has a sandwich at the Tutors named after the Mountaineers. And so having been there, been tutored, I feel it flowing through me. This is a Mountaineers game. I think Joey Aguilar's kind of found his groove again. I think the Mountaineers are going to pick up a road win and try to salvage the season as they try to scrap to get to 6 wins and a potential bowl season.
Man, I feel the absolute way about this too. In a lot of ways, I feel almost like Coastal they're done with the season. That's how it feels to me. I don't know why. It's just that I just feel like they do this a lot, where they run into some adversity and they're like, all right, we're not going to win the division. We quit. Chanticleer fans, go ahead, get on my ass for that. Prove me wrong, but that's how it feels. I feel like Mountaineers just kind of come in here and take care of business. But Saturday, November 9th, that's when the real business of the Sun Belt takes place, because we got all these games. Texas Bobcats started off in the morning, as you mentioned, against the Warhawks. 11 a.m. start time, a very rare Sun Belt 11 o'clock game. Texas State Bobcats, a disappointing 4-4. ULM Warhawks, 5-3, still looking for that game to get into the bowl. It's going to be played on ESPNU. Maybe that makes up for it being at 11 a.m. No one ever trusts the Warhawks, Tibbs. The Bobcats are a 7-point favorite. What do you think of this game?
I like the Warhawks. It's at home. As we've said before, Monroe's a weird and hard place to get to. Texas State's going to find that out. That means that they got to get up even earlier. They got to make that long trip over. It's early. It's going to be nasty, rainy, slosh ball. That favors a running attack. We know the Warhawks have a great running attack. I like the Warhawks to win the game over the Viva La Boobcats.
In the preseason, I think I might have even said this in my Sun Belt preview. I felt like maybe G.J. Kinney and his Bobcats, were being a little over-evaluated. And two, felt a little bit to me like when Clay Helton first took over Georgia Southern, when he had that really good season to start off the year when they were expected to do nothing. Kenny's team last year to start the season wasn't really, not a lot was expected from the Bobcats. And the Bobcats, I think, turned in 8 wins. Now here they are. They're 4-4. They had trouble closing out some games. Now they're having trouble with some conference games that maybe you think they could have won those games. I think the Bobcats are kind of in trouble. And if they lose to ULM, which that used to be like, I bet when they looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, they had already chalked up that win. Now they got the Warhawks in Monroe. And even though Vegas is saying, we give the Bobcats a 7-point edge, I feel like the Warhawks are going to make them pay for that. I agree with you. This is going to be a Warhawk win. Next game out of the match, a more reasonable 2 p.m. start on ESPN Plus. The Marshall Thundering Herd, they're 5-3, sneaky 5-3. They get Southern Miss Golden Eagles. They're just 1-7. Oh my God. The Herd are a 13.5-point favorite. Marshall is not like a herd of buffalo. They're more like a sneaky shark, just silently swimming beneath the surface, gobbling up beachgoers while the sleepy lifeguard just doesn't really notice. I mean, we're not really even talking about the Herd. But here with Georgia Southern not playing this weekend, they have a chance to take over as a tie for first place with the Eagles. Do the Golden Eagles have any chance of upending this scenario?
I think this is probably one of our better games that we're going to see here.
Really?
In the Sunbelt schedule of the week.
Tell me more.
Now, can Southern Miss beat Marshall? I mean, Shane's the one that always talks about that the East-West, West-East travel, it'll get you every time. Yeah. Hattiesburg, again, not the easiest place to get to. But having seen Marshall firsthand, and especially with Green on the defensive line and the quarterback play there of Braxton and Earl waiting in the wings, Marshall's just too much, especially this year, for Southern Miss to really compete in this game. I like the Herd to roll on in this game.
Yeah, me too. I think the Herd tramples the Golden Eagles without mercy. I just don't. I don't know if the Golden Eagles, unlike Georgia State, unlike Troy, I don't know if the Golden Eagles have that same moxie. They just don't seem. They seem more of a defeated program. Like Troy, I know, they're coming off that championship. There's a lot of pride there, and now they're seeing, some better play coming up and makes them feel good. You got Georgia State. They're working their asses off to stay competitive in these games. They get that win against Vanderbilt, so they'll always have that. The Eagles, Golden Eagles of Southern Miss, just have nothing. They have nothing. I don't see this being a good game at all. I see the Thundering Herd just stomping all over these guys. Hey, speaking of the Panthers, they play at 2:30 on ESPN Plus, the champagne of broadcast networks. Georgia State Panthers, 2-6. They take on the James Madison Dukes. They're in Harrisonburg, so that means a big spread, and sure enough, it's a 17-point spread for the Dukes. The Panthers might be the best owned for Sunbelt team in the universe. I mean, they compete. They compete for Del McGee. Ted Hurst, not a bad wide receiver. Is that enough to overcome Dukes?
I like the Dukes to win it on the scoreboard, but I'll tell you, I think Del McGee has something special brewing with the Panthers, and he has them playing maybe a little bit over their heads. I like them to cover, but the Dukes are just the Dukes, especially when it's at home in Harrisonburg. I think that they're just too much, and they're going to keep rolling on as they try to repair the damage of their season, trying to get a little bit better bowl positioning, having already hit the 6-win mark, and try to make sure that they're winning all the games they can in the East, just in case people fall, that they're in position to scoop and score.
Yeah, the Dukes are 2-2 in conference play, but they're still a lane for them to win out. They've got upcoming games against ODU, Marshall, and Appalachian State. in addition to this game against Georgia State, they still have a way to win this division. You know, they're going to need some help, but they have a way. I don't think the Dukes lose this game, but I don't think the Panthers make it easy. I think you and I are in agreement on that. Last game of the day is at 4. You know, it's kind of strange. We kind of wrap things up by 7 o'clock, Tibbs. Sunbelt will be done. Sunbelt will be done by sundown. That's your headline.
Rising.
Arkansas State Red Wolves 5-3. They go all the way down to Lafayette to take on the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. They're 7-1. They're cruising. They're 1 win away from 1 Tulane loss away from being perfect. Right? It's 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. ESPN Plus, the champagne of broadcast stations. The Cajuns, according to BetOnline.com, is a 16.5-point favorite. And let me tell you, old man Ben Wooldridge has been the man in Lafayette. 2,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, just 4 picks this season. I'm telling you, the Cajuns have the number one. They have the number 1 defense in the Sun Belt. They have the number 3 offense in the Sun Belt. This is a balanced team, Tibbs.
I mean, I like the Cajuns. I mean, as I've said in previous episodes, I don't know if it's their offense. I don't know if it's their defense that's carrying it. Maybe it's both. Special teams are also on fire. I like the Cajuns to win it, but I think Arkansas State gives them a good showing and really puts the pressure on them to make them earn that victory.
Yeah, because there's one thing about these teams, and they don't talk about it all the time, but they don't like each other. So they play each other hard, and Lafayette's been the site of some pretty epic battles. I will tell you this: the Cajuns are not only just in the hunt for an SBC title, right? They could also get a place in the college football playoffs. It's kind of a long shot. Everybody likes the Mountain West guys.
Boise State.
Thank you.
And Army.
Army is a feel-good story, and well, it should be. Hell, I've heard even Memphis, although I think they're kind of out of it now. It's probably not going to be the Cajuns, but the Cajuns still want to be in that conversation. So that's just enough motivation, I think, for Michael DeJormo. Michael D to dial up the pain to 11. That is my prediction. I don't like going against my Red Wolves. I think it's a little too much to expect the Red Wolves to come away with a victory in Lafayette under these conditions. And that's it, man. Tibbs, guess who's not playing in the Sun Belt this week? Before we close up Second and Short.
Let's see. I have not heard anything about ODU.
Ding!
And I have not heard about T-Roy.
Ding! All right, there's 2 others. There's 2 more.
Let me cheat. There's no South Alabama this week.
Ding! And we mentioned these guys.
And there is not a Georgia Southern sighting.
Ding, ding, ding. Those 4 teams taking the time off, and that's it. That's the end. You did it. You won the bonus round for Sun Belt Second and Short. Way to go, teams. Nicely done. You're sick. You're gross. And because of that, I'm going to make you go first for plugs, promos, and parting shots.
One quick thing before we hit that women's soccer tournament.
Yes.
The quarterfinals. This has been a great tournament there with Texas State getting their opening win 2-0 over App State. Coastal Carolina with the huge upset. They were the 7 seed, advancing into the semifinals with a 2-1 win over South Alabama. JMU and ULM went to second round of penalty kicks at 0-0. The Dukes find that one extra penalty kick to propel them to the victory. Same thing with ODU, Georgia State. They went to penalty kicks as well to take you to the finals. It's not quite final yet, but I assure you it will be. 7 shots on goal for Texas State. 4 of them find the back of the net. Cinderella, i.e. Coastal Carolina, the slipper's not fitting. JMU ODU on the other side for that other championship slot.
Yes, so that was some great soccer action. Great season. A lot of good teams this year. Was sad to see that happen to the Warhawks because I know the Warhawks had some high hopes. But there's always next year. I think volleyball is kind of beginning to wind down. Is that right? I think we only have a handful of games left.
Yeah, I want to say Friday, Saturday is the finale of the regular season with the tournament coming up in the coming days.
All right, big West showdown between South Alabama and Arkansas State this weekend. That should determine at least that part of the division. Anything else? Anything we got? Before plugs, promos, and parting shots, of which you're going to start off.
The other thing, we got to also put together some baseball. A lot of good games as schedules have come out for that.
Oh, okay.
Softball schedule's coming out soon.
Oh, softball.
For my plug promo parting shot there, Jeremy.
Okay.
Why is it that the most important class that you probably took in high school was civics by the football coach that really wanted to be there less than you wanted to be?
Yes, and the football coach usually didn't conceal his opinion about the government either.
That is correct.
He wasn't usually very even keel about it, if I recall.
However, the message and the lessons are real and important, and they come into play now.
Okay.
Where in the Republic, we can't really have, because of checks and balances, a true dictatorship.
Okay.
So no matter how much, Jeremy, you want to just rule the world.
Yes.
I hate to tell you, it's not going to happen.
Damn.
So take your red and turn blue.
My parting shot has a political twinge to it. It doesn't really concern with who won or who lost. You know, it's fine. Yeah, we leave our politics to the side shelf. You know, I'm a businessman, by the way. This isn't really my business. I have other business. And a businessman can't even really afford to have politics. So I try to keep out of it. But one thing that I love about the election today that I didn't love about yesterday or the day before is that, thank God, Tibbs, no more solicitations from politicians. No more ads on the Twitter from Senate hopefuls from Montana asking me for $5. It's over. Thank God. I don't have to look at them anymore. I don't have to hear their pitches. I don't have to endure their solicitations. It's over. We can all rest now, Tibbs. We can all be at peace from the solicitations.
It's so lonely without Ted Cruz hitting me up wanting money, though.